Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sober Truth Podcast. I'm George Wood, the tattooed pastor, and this week I'm honored to bring to you a guest, Brian Layne. He has a story that will bring tears to your eyes and hope to your heart because he has overcame challenges unknown to so many out there in the world today. But his story will give you an insight to so many issues that we have, whether it's in the foster care system, in the way that we treat our teens, in the way that we look at people that are going through homelessness. It's just, let me just tell you, his story will blow your mind. But not only that, his story is one that will now intersect with mine, as you'll hear in the podcast that he is coming on board the Sober Truth Project to be the COO of the organization, so that him and I can work together and bring something into the world that hopefully transforms and changes lives. So as you're watching or listening to today's podcast, please keep in mind you're going to be hearing and seeing a lot more of this man, Mr. Brian Layne. So as always, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the station, like the video, and share it out so that those who need to hear a message like this can hear it. They can get their hands on it, and they can realize that their life, no matter where they're at, there's always hope. Enjoy today, folks. Thanks. What's up, everyone? George Wood, tattooed pastor, and welcome back to the Sober Truth Podcast. And I got to tell you, today is a long time coming because, as you know, I have been on this journey for the last few years. Sober Truth actually began in 2020, right before COVID. Founded with Amanda Sharp, Dr. Amanda Sharp. If you've seen some of the videos with her, she's she was working for Harvard for a while, and now she currently works with SAMHSA. So she is, doing big things in the world of behavioral health, and still, in my life, in the life of the Sober Truth Project. But for the most part, I've been on this journey on my own, and at times, trying to find people that want to come and partner with me. But when you have a radical message of recovery that is different than the world has ever seen or heard, it's really hard to get someone that aligns with what you think, what you believe, and what you want to bring into this world. And I got to tell you, over the last year, I have become very good friends with the gentleman sitting next to me. And Mr. Brian Layne is someone that is an inspiration to me. He's one of the closest friends I have in this world. And he is someone that I have truly found a bond with, someone that I feel like this is somebody I could partner with, and somebody I could go off into the dark night and find some light with. And I wanted to get a chance to introduce everybody to Mr. Brian Layne, and also at the same time, for the very first time, make the public announcement that he is now going to partner with me with the Sober Truth Project. And as of last Friday, he is officially the COO of the organization. And he is going to tell us a little bit about himself today, and you will be seeing more of him. But today I wanted to be making the announcement that this is the new COO of the Sober Truth. And Mr. Brian Layne, I am happy to be here with you and honored to be on this journey with you.
Well, I can just say that Sober Truth Project was good while it lasted. Now that I'm taking over, we'll rock this thing into the ground. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's an honor, and it happened organically. There was no compulsion in it or trying to make things fit. A lot of times I feel like people in their journey are trying to force things, and when you just sit back and relax, things seem to just fall into place if you have the right mindset and the right heart set about your journey. And it's an honor. And honestly, in my heart, as soon as it became a reality, I mean, it felt right. I mean, we've come up with some ideas and concepts that we thought, hey, maybe we can work together on this. Hey, maybe we can do this together. But I really believe that God was working things out to where he was going to align us perfectly at the right time for the right reason. And so it's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to see what God's going to do with this whole journey.
Yeah, amen. You know, it's hard for people to understand when, you know, I talk about recovery and I say, hey, yeah, I want to change the world, and how they view recovery, and automatically people think of addiction. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. That's maybe a subset or a part of that. But what I'm really talking about is, you know, the human's ability to be one with themselves and their authentic self, and to be at peace with who they are, and to be one with God, to be one with the universe, to be one with all that they could be in their lived out destiny. And we're all on this journey to some degree, and addiction and mental health and suicide are definitely parts of that, but so is people that are in prison right now, and prison ministries, and the homeless ministries that are right outside this window right now, and all of these. But they're also the person who's working 80 hours a week, making $1 million a year, who doesn't know who he truly is or who she truly is. So there's this aspect of recovery that I want to bring into the world. And you align with me in that way, because you are so much into, you know, understanding things like breath work, understanding yoga, understanding how we become, you know, at peace within ourselves, not trying to strive to become something that we're not even supposed to be anyways. All of this, because of the journey that you've been on, aligns perfectly with how I want to bring in, what I want to bring into this world, which is a new way of even looking at, you know, who we are as human beings, as men and women, to live a life of authenticity, and peace within ourselves, because we are really living the life that we were destined to live.
Yeah, I think, and that's well said. I think I'm just guessing at this, but I would say that the large part of the world suffers from what I call noun syndrome. And it's people, places, and things that keep us from actually figuring out what we are, who we are, and where we're going to go. And, you know, whether it's group peer pressure, or, you know, it's the local church that you're going to that's kind of resisting some of the ambition, or maybe some of the passion that you have, or maybe you just want to fit in because what you are doesn't exactly look like your group dynamic. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times we find ourselves amiss and confused, and I think that's for everybody. And some people, unfortunately, when they can't find their place in the world, turn to things like substances. Some people end up in bad relationships, and they go through trauma in those relationships, whether you're male or female. And there's recovery in that too. And sometimes it's just about chasing the things of the world that really don't matter. All the stuff that you never ever wanted in the first place, all of those things can be a deterrent from who we truly are and keep us from our destiny. Mm-hmm. And so it's about stepping away from that and entering into that recovery. It's kind of like you were talking about in the uncovery. You're uncovering truth, you know, by looking at what's really going on around, and actually being brave enough, courageous enough to step back and say, you know, it may be lonely for a while. It may be kind of crazy. I'm going to be confused. I'm going to be afraid. But I'm willing to take this journey because, you know, I'd rather live out who I'm supposed to be than compromise for one more second. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that's important. And I think that you can learn. There's many different tools in the world for people to be able to utilize, and some will be temporary for some people, and some will be long-term for some people. And what those two tools were for that one person may not work at all for the next person. Mm-hmm. And so it's the journey of self-discovery, the journey of really cultivating that intimate relationship with the Lord, mm-hmm. that is exciting to me. And I want to see the lights come on in people's eyes. Mm-hmm. And so however I can do that, whether it's by the highway or the byway, as the Bible says, or going into the prisons, going into the churches, going into the high schools, doing whatever, going into the homeless shelters. I don't care what it is. Let's get the message out. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that is of the utmost importance, because everybody has a destiny. Everybody has a purpose. And I believe that it's guys like you and me and other people, amazing women, mm-hmm. and men, mm-hmm. that are put on this earth, have gone through something that are going to help people come to that place of, I guess, aha, or have that epiphany. And so I'm just grateful to be one of those people that are going to be able to help people realize their purpose.
I think, I think what it is the world, and I don't think it's just the world's fault. I think our brains tend to work in this way where to conserve energy, it tries to figure things out and then put it in a box. And when we understand that, M. Scott Peck in The Road Less Traveled says, we begin dying the moment we stop making maps in our mind, right? When we stop mapping out the possibilities of this world, of this life that we have, of our potential, and we become smaller and smaller, it's almost like at one point we see everything as the whole world, and that's all the potential we have. But eventually we live into a smaller and smaller little town.
Whittled down.
Yeah, whittled down. Like, this is all I know, all the way from our politics to the vehicle we drive. I drive a Dodge. I'm a Republican, and I like short hair, and whatever. It's just like as few choices and options as I can think about, then that's where I am. But that's when we begin to die. And the reality is the world is always the same. The potential is always there, no matter where you're at. You always have all of this potential. And so when we look at things like how the rest of my life should look, often we have to go backwards and figure out how I even got to this place before I can fully understand what's in front of me. Because if I don't fully look at everything I've been through and all of the trauma that I've been through and all of the pain that I've been through and how I handled that and how have I healed from certain parts of that, until I can see all of that, I can't see what's in front of me. And it's just easier for us to just be like, this is all that's in front of me. This is all the potential I have. And I remember when I got into like recovery from addiction and people saying, well, there's 12 steps and that's that's where you go. And I like being very discouraged because I didn't like the 12-step programs, and I'm not knocking them. I'm just my personal beliefs. I didn't resonate with them. And so I'm like, well, then I guess there's no chance for me. I had to go out and find out that there's other ways that people can recover.
Right.
Okay. And once again, not knocking the 12 steps. So please, if that works for you, then amen. But I needed something different. And so that made me think, what other things are we limiting when we look at potential in life, right? It's years ago, I was an athlete and I used to think, you got to lift heavy weights and you got to lift them, 3 to 4 times a week, low reps, meant not too many sets. And, that's the only way you could work out. And then eventually you figure out like, oh, wait, you could do high reps and you could do stretching and aerobic exercise. And there's all these different things that we can do. But it comes from like recognizing, okay, I've been through some stuff. I need to process that stuff I've been through so that I can better understand how I move forward. Now, one of the things, you're one of the smartest people I've ever met. You're very capable in all different areas of life. I could list all the different ways that you're very capable, but that's not why I wanted to partner with you, and that's not what attracted me to you. It's your life. And of people that have been through hell and back, you were right up there with somebody that's been through the most hell of anybody I know and has made it to where you're at today. And you still strive to get better every single day, which is so impressive to me. You're not resting on your laurels. You're not sitting back saying, I've accomplished all this. You run a different company than this one. You have many jobs, abilities, relationships all across the world, but you're not sitting back saying, I've arrived. This is it. You're every day seeking the will of God. You're seeking knowing yourself better. You're seeking healing from past trauma. You're constantly trying to evolve. And that's the type of stuff that has attracted me to you. And I want our audience to know about you because it was not an easy start for you. If you want to share some of your story.
I think for a lot of people, let's just say you have somebody who had it really good and then all of a sudden something terrible happens and they end up in in a really bad place. So let's just say young kid loses his parents, ends up, and then there's nobody to take care of him. Before, when he had his parents, everything was safe, normal, and he was just living the life. But then all of a sudden you take that away, and their whole world's upside down, and they're being tossed around, and they went from love to no love. For me, I can't compare myself to that because that could be really devastating. I knew no love when I was young.
Yeah.
So, or any kind of healthy love, because I was born into an abusive household. I was abused as an infant. Not that I can remember that specifically. I'm sure subconsciously it's imprinted, but and so it was being tossed around from the beginning to the aunt and uncle, back to the abusive situation between my mother and my father, and then adopted off, and then from there experiencing some love. I remember that. Get adopted finally. I'm in this good holistic household. Dad's a minister and a part-time cop, and then that relationship between him and my mother, my adopted mother, fell apart. And to me, that was more devastating because I was of age, and she was all I knew as a mother, as coming of age. And once that happened, I went with her, and then ended up, she got married again, and it was, I'm a remnant of a failed memory or a failed idea. And so I ended up getting put back into foster care. And so I was in foster care for about a year before my adopted dad, who had gone off and done whatever, I don't know, came back into the picture and came and started seeing me again, and then finally took me to live with him. And then, just trying to brush through this. By this time, I have some behavioral issues. I'm a young kid that's just been all over the place. I don't understand what's going on with me, and I just, I'm reacting to every single different situation that arises in my life. You're a young kid. You're not supposed to be thinking philosophically about life at that time, existentially or whatever. You just want to play. You want to play with your GI Joes. You want to know where you're going. They've got kids. You want to know, do they got a playground at this McDonald's? That's what a kid cares about when you're young. That's all they should be focused on. Like, maybe not McDonald's, but like it's just the joys of being a child. And but he ended up putting me into another group home at the time because he had to go do something. I'm not clear on the details, but by the time he came back for me, I ended up, or he was already with somebody else. And so in these group homes, by the way, I'd been abused by the staff and things. And things were a lot different back in the day. There wasn't all of these rules for, kids were allowed to smoke in these group homes. I mean, it was just crazy. And they didn't have them divided. It was teenagers with little kids and all of that stuff like that. So I was exposed to sexual abuse and extreme physical abuse. I mean, at this time, the staff actually lived with the children. And so when I got out of there, I was even more kind of just beat up and messed up. So that's really what my childhood looked like. It was just unstable, all over the place. And that's all I knew. Mm-hmm. So like I said at the beginning of this, for a callback real quick, I can't compare it to somebody who had something and then lost it, because that's devastating. Now, I know what that feels like later on in life.
Yeah.
But that could be even more devastating. All I knew was this. And so for me, it was a normal. This is the way it is. This is how it's supposed to be. And my dad got remarried, or my adopted dad got remarried. And by this time, I was troubled. And I had a lot of behavioral issues. And all I really wanted, and I used to say this over and over again, all I really wanted was just to be with my dad. That's it. Like, I just wanted to know that he loved me and that he wasn't going to give me up. And I used to make him promise. I remember these. Please don't send me away again. Oh, I promise, Brian, I'm never going to send you away. This is for real. And I, everybody's broken. Everybody's dealing with some level of tragedy in their life. Our parents are, and I'm glad that I've come to that now. But at the time, I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And so, I trusted. And, then just, the adoptive mom trying to come back into the picture, the real mother coming back into the picture, all of this chaos over time. And it just took a toll on me. And so my adopted dad, would rather deal with his new family than deal with me. Now he can say, well, that's not what but it's the actions. It's what it looks like, not what it is. You can have all the best intentions in the world, but if the result of that of those intentions is not conducive to something uplifting and positive, then it's not what it is. That's not what your intention was. Is not what happened. And so, like they say, good intentions pave the path to hell all the time, right? And so I ended up just being put back into the system and bouncing around from one group home to the next. And then finally, when I was 17, I got out of the system because I was graduating from boys' school. There was no going back. Hey, he's too old. We're not going to keep him.
Yeah.
Get him out of here. And by that time, man, I just didn't have any roadmap to, I didn't know how to fix a car. I didn't know how to change the oil. I didn't know how to pay a bill. I didn't, my education was jacked up. I literally was at an extreme disadvantage.
Yeah.
And as far as just social skills and everything like that. So I was already institutionalized. So the next best thing from that was, okay, let's join the military. Let's get into the military. It's going to be free. You're taken care of. You go in there. It's just like being locked up, and especially when you're going through basic training. But before that, my real mother came back into the picture, and so I went out to Oregon and lived with her for a while. And dude, I'm giving you a 50,000-foot view.
Of course.
Real quick. I'm just jumping through real quick. And we ended up, getting. She was like, "Oh, I'm doing so much better. You should come out and meet your sister. Come stay with us," and blah blah blah. A couple months later, she's in cahoots with the Mexican mafia. Her boyfriend's a foot soldier in it, and they're making meth. I'm helping them make meth, and next thing you know, I'm shooting up meth with my mother at 17, and so I remember one day I'd been up for like weeks, and I'm 17, and this is Portland, Oregon, 1996, and I remember just being like, I got to get away from this. I need to join that military that I was talking about, and so I was walking outside in the morning. I was going to go steal the neighbor's paper, and the neighbor finally caught me. And I was like, "Whatever, dude." And he's like, "Put my paper down. Don't ever steal it again." I'm like, "All right, whatever." And so I turned around. And he's like, "Bro, you're gonna go to jail over a paper?" Some junkie dude that was coming over to score some dope at my mom's house, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I know, man, it's messed up." And he goes, "Bro, I heard you were riding a Lightning or whatever." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "I heard you've been shooting it up, bro. Once a banger, always a banger." And I said, F that, bro. I'm not doing this. So I just went back inside and went to sleep, woke up, grabbed my stuff, which wasn't much, a few changes of clothing, and I ended up living in the streets of Portland, Oregon for probably close to a year, maybe 9 months, somewhere in that range, 9 months to a year. And I experienced a whole different world there. There's a lot of young, at the time, and I still think that is a problem out there, a lot of young kids that were homeless. There were 14-year-old girls. There were, and like in the 90s, they didn't have that. Let's place them in the foster care mentality. They just, they had little organizations where the kids could show up and get cared for. They had counselors and caseworkers, and so I spent a lot of time, and I'd make my money, babysitting young girls that were getting high on heroin, so that they wouldn't get raped while
they were getting high.
While they were getting high, because you nod out and all of that. So, I didn't do heroin at the time, and I was just getting off of doing needles with my mother, crystal meth, and so I was just done with drugs. Somehow I was able to escape that, and I'd shot up probably 20 plus times, and normally people who get past the first 2 or 3 times, they're done for a long time. And so I was grateful for that. But I always had this deeper sense of and maybe it was because I got cut so deep as a child that caused me to develop a depth of character and being analytical and philosophical and all of those things that made me think differently. Mm-hmm. Or as some say, I think God had a plan for my life. And I believe that.
Yeah.
But, I got exposed to justice insane life when I was out in Portland, Oregon, and just watching those young, beautiful girls, even these young boys, being stuck on this stuff. And I always had this curiosity, like, what's your story? Oh, how did you end up out here? Oh, my uncle molested me and I had to run from home, or my dad was raping me, or, all of these crazy stories, or, I was in this relationship and it went bad. And so I did that for a while. And then finally I got pneumonia because I'd been out in just the weather and I don't know, in grimy dirtiness. And the caseworkers were threatening to file charges in Oregon if my adopted dad did not take me back to Indiana or help me get back to Indiana. So by force, my dad had to send a plane ticket out there to avoid getting in trouble because I had a place to go. And he was just being a knucklehead.
Yeah.
And at the time, sorry, Dad, we're good now. But
a lot of people don't hear about that type of stuff. We think of, even when you told me this story the first time, I never really thought about that. But kids get adopted a lot, and we're always like, yay, the system works. They got it, child got it. But what happens when that family divorces?
Or what happens when they think they're thinking they're seeing through rose-colored glasses. Oh, I'm going to adopt some kids. This is going to be great. We're going to raise them. But then all of a sudden you run into their trauma. How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, when they're making adoption decisions, they're not thinking about what they're going to have to deal with this kid. Maybe the kid was born on drugs. It's going to cause some chemical imbalances. Maybe the kid's been extremely abused. You ever adopted a dog from a shelter that's been abused? They're crazy a lot of times. Or, it takes them years of trust to come out. As a matter of fact, I have a dog, Brooklyn. She had been really abused, and for the first 2 years we had her, she would always be under a bed somewhere like a cat, or, would never come out. And it took her, like I said, two and a half years before she actually came and scratched on our door to actually come in our bedroom. And then slowly over time. And people don't realize the process or the continuum of things when it comes to dealing with children that have come from abuse, especially when they're doing adoption.
And not just that, but people, human beings, we don't ever think of the story behind how the person ended up there, right? We just assume the fallacy of choice. They chose to be a drug addict. They chose to be a jerk. They chose to be this type of person. But how often do we ever really think about what a person has been through to make them the way that they are?
Well, it all boils down to this: love me. Somebody loved me. And at the end of the day, kids especially want to be loved. When we get older, a lot of us, we don't think about the real world. We don't think about growing up, and all we want to do, everybody wants to find meaning, purpose, and someone to love them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes love can be a lethal thing, especially if it's unhealthy love coming from somebody who's coming out of chaos. And so, a lot of these girls, a lot of these guys have been loved the wrong way in their relationships with their parents, and then in a relationship with their spouses or their significant others.
Yeah.
And so imagine, you come from a broken home, you find somebody who says they care about you and they love you and they want to be with you. And that's the only love you've ever known. They show you affection through physical touch, through caretaking, through sex, through all of that. And that becomes your whole world. That becomes your center of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
And so when this person, if they mess up or they fall off, and then they bring drugs into the equation, you think to yourself, I'll never do that. But because you're so desperate for love, you'll do something that you normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And you see that with breakups when people do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Love is if you don't have that healthy foundation, can really do some damaging things to you. It's not really love, but it's what we know as love. And so a lot of these girls, a lot of these guys ended up in places they never intended to be because they got blindsided by unhealthy, toxic relationships. Mm-hmm. And that happened to me, trying to find that love. And finally I got into the military, and I did my little time. Whole way through, I just, after I got in there, and then I wanted to be free. Everybody gets locked up. They feel good at first. Well, I can't say they feel good at first, but for me, I felt good because I was like, I'm safe. I'm taken care of. I'm in the military. I've got it going on. But then all of a sudden I wanted to be free. So it was this war within. And so I started rebelling even in the military, acting out as a grown child, and just kept working towards getting out of the military until finally they were like, dude, are you just trying to destroy your life, or do you want out of the military? And I was like, I want out. It was a horrible mistake, but they ended up giving me, a Med 200, which is, and it's also an enlistment line, ELS, an enlistment line of separation, so that I could get out and still get some benefits and not get dishonorably or anything like that. So they really worked to help me because a lot of people cared about me. I had this ability to have an impact on people, even when I'm at my worst. And I think it's just the hand of God on my life, and I think God's hand's not on anybody else's. But I'm just saying, like, sometimes God steps in, and we don't understand why for some and why not for others. I mean, from our own perspective, because our perception is limited. And so, I got out of that, and immediately I'm free in the streets. And so I just kind of hobo around, staying at people's places, smoking weed, shacking up with girls, trying to find my way, and getting jobs at like Burger King. And I remember one time, like, my dream job, this was the height of my, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be make movies and stuff. So I was addicted to films. And so my dream job was to work at a video store. But my confidence was so low. This is a guy who went through the military too, just to give you, I made it through the military. I mean, as far as like the hard stuff was concerned, and who still didn't think he was good enough to get a job at a video store. And I just thought, man, I'm not going to fill out an application there because they'll see I work at Burger King, or they'll see I doing this, and they're just going to say I'm not good enough or whatever. So I just wouldn't even believe in myself enough. So I just drifted around, got a job, quit it when I got paid. And I mean, I went to tons of jobs. I thought I was never going to get better from, just being this habitual job quitter. I'm serious, dude. I was like, and this is back in the late 90s. This is Bill Clinton era, man. There was a lot of jobs. You could quit one job, walk across the street, and get another job. I mean, it was a really good time in America. But, I started getting extremely addicted to weed. And it just kind of consumed my life because I like to be stoned. And when I was stoned, I didn't think. And I just was like, hey, bro, what's going on, man?
Yeah.
And it's like, what's up, girl? What's going on? And so I had this chemical courage, and it kind of filled the analytical gaps where between thought and action, I have this analyzation that just gets me low, low, low because I was just broken on the inside. The code was defective.
Yeah.
And so I get into weed, and I'm like, God, man, I got to get off this weed. And so what do? I think I'm going to go get sober from weed, but really what I'm trying to do is be reincarcerated or institutionalized again. So I'm like, hey, adopted dad, I need to get help for weed. And so I went to rehab for weed, which is kind of weird, especially in the late 90s. Especially now, but I don't know. Everything's messed up. So I go down there, and I ended up getting into some recovery situations and really giving it a shot. And mind you, like I said, I'm giving you a 50,000-foot view. I dabbled in all kinds of drugs in between, with the weed.
Yeah, of course.
And I think it was right before I went down there, I had this little excursion with crack cocaine for like a week. And I was like, man, I've got to get help. Weed's really destroying my life. And so I went to rehab. But I got out of there and met a girl and started, running around with her, started smoking weed again, decided I was going to try my hand at school, enrolled in IU and with a GED and Christian high school diploma, whatever that means. And I got in somehow, some way into the School of Psychology. And because I scored high enough, I was never dumb, but, it's just, I didn't pay attention in school. It's just kind of weird how that works. And after that.
Hey everyone, just wanted to peek my head in here into this video or podcast that you're watching or listening to and say, please leave some comments. I can't get you guys to leave me comments. Please leave some comments below. Let me know what you're thinking. Give me something to interact with so that we together can figure out what we need to do in order to transform and change lives. So leave comments below.
That. I just kind of drifted around. I really didn't focus on my studies. I used to go to school and I cut into some classes that I was just interested in. Like I tried to double major for a while. Then I was like, you know what? I don't really know if I want to do this. And I was unstable in my schooling as I was. But I would just jump into like humanities class or political, what is it called? Poli-sci. Love that. Got in there, listened to those stuff. And classes I would take I wouldn't even know my register. I just wanted to. I was just there for the social experiment, really, or experience, I should say.
Yeah.
And so I started hanging around a bunch of people, a group of people that were, they were part LGBTQ, and they were always partying. So I was attracted to that, and they were really accepting. So like it was like, oh man, I found my people, and they were doing ecstasy and partying, and so I got involved in that. And then I tried my hand at DJing at a club. And selling ecstasy at the same time, and next thing you know, it was just on to debauchery and orgies and drugs. I mean, all kinds of drugs. And 1 minute they're yelling at me, he's in a K-hole, or bro, he's really tripping. Whatever drugs were there, I used to think it was some kind of spectacle. I'm like, dude, I've got 5 drugs in my system right now, dude. This is so awesome. I'm doing 5 drugs. To me, those were accomplishments, because I thought that I was living the life. I had all the sex I wanted. I had all the girls. We decided to try our hand at the adult film industry. It just got crazy. That's how crazy I was. I just descended into this madness all the while trying to be an entrepreneur, I guess. But I was a bad one. and drugs consumed me. And I'm going to just fast forward a little bit. I just ended up ultimately getting into the streets, or getting onto crack cocaine and back on meth again. And I lost my mind a couple of times along the way. And next thing you know, I'm in the streets of Indianapolis, just going crazy, just living for crack cocaine, just in and out of jail. I ended up getting arrested like 40 plus times, and then I went to prison 6 times. I served collectively in prison about 7 years, 7.5, something like that. I'm not going to do the math on that, but, but the Lord was with me through all of those experiences, and I'll share some of those. I had some incredible supernatural encounters when I was living in the streets, and that's a whole different story, and it's way too long to go into. But I was in the gutter. I was as grimy as it gets. I was robbing people, running guns, breaking into places. The life that I led on the streets. It was insane. And I remember having this distinct conversation with the Lord one day, and I was walking down the street, and I was like, Lord, I know this isn't going to last forever, but this is where I'm at, and I'm stuck on this stuff. It gave me a purpose. Like a lot of people get a career.
Yeah.
MBA. CEO, or some kind of direction. Crack became my passion. Drugs. How can I be the best possible crackhead, out there? How can I hustle the most money without having to do the most work? It didn't work out too well in the beginning. I was grimy. I was the guy in the parking lot. I was like, hey man, half out of it, just trying to get somebody to buy me a cheeseburger. That's back when I didn't eat enough, and like a cheeseburger from McDonald's tasted like a T-bone steak or a ribeye. You'd take a bite of it, you'd be so hungry. You'd take a bite of it, and it would just like cause you to go into some kind of mental foodgasm. And it was because I was so freaking hungry. But I felt like, and again, even in this, I felt a sense of purpose and a calling beyond what I was going through.
Well, you were in Islam as well, right?
That's a whole nother podcast. So
okay, we'll go to another.
There's so much going on here. I'm trying to keep this thing.
Let's keep it. Yeah, keep it streamlined.
So at some point, now I've always had a relationship with God, whether it was in Islam or Christianity, and I had a special place in my heart for Jesus always. There was something about Jesus, even in the Quran, that just really compelled me towards him. And there's nothing, honestly, just segue real quick. Show me any story throughout history. Show me any message throughout history that is like the story of Jesus and the gospel.
Right.
There is none. And I've studied, I've looked. You get some compassion from Buddha. You get some, the Hindus have got some good concepts. But there's no other story. There's no other message like the pure. We're not talking about the political.
Yeah.
Pure, unadulterated gospel. For, like what Paul said, for I am determined to know nothing among you except Jesus and him crucified.
Mm-hmm.
That simplistic message of the gospel.
Yeah.
And just knowing that there's nothing better. There's nothing better than that message of hope. And so, I don't always speak in those terms, but for me, that was the ultimate deal maker, I should say, as far as like pulling me up out of the streets. And how I encountered God in the midst of my brokenness, and how he showed up and he turned upside down the religious establishment. When I was younger, a lot of people said God won't talk to you if you're broken and busted and living in sin. Matter of fact, when I thought I had it together, God was silent. When I was at my worst and most brokenness, God was hanging out with the homies.
Yeah.
And showing up and speaking to me and walking with me and providing, making sure I didn't get killed. And that's the kind of God that I want in my life. He's with you even at your worst. And I love, like when I read the Bible and I see crazy stuff, like when we just talked beforehand, Samson's in the bed with a hooker, basically.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit's like, hey, what's up, bro? Your parents are outside. Like he's coming in to hang out with the dude. So like it's the true message of the gospel turns upside down and puts it on its head, the message of like this crazy extremist evangelicalism that's pretty popular right now. And so that's where I want to live, and that's what saved me from the streets. And getting back to where I was, it's God. When I was out there and I was meeting all these people, same story. Only this time I was a participator from Portland, Oregon. When all those young girls and all of those broken people, I was fascinated by people's stories. You'd meet some people that used to be, one guy was a 1-star general at one point in his life, and now he's a dope fiend running the streets doing heroin and crack and whatever. Another person was a high-powered executive, or this beautiful young girl that comes out. I remember her name was December. She was so precious, and she had just been abused in this relationship, and it led her to her kids being ripped away from her by this evil, maniacal man who was broken. We'll leave it there. But he won. Sometimes evil wins, and it breaks goodness. And this girl ends up out there, and 6-7 months later, she's dead. Like there's, and then the relationships you develop in the streets, even with the dope dealers, you become interwoven, as we talked about.
Yeah.
We come with the whole atmosphere, the whole game itself, with the neighbors, with the socioeconomic vibe. Sometimes just pulls you in, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're looking for love, and even if it's toxic, and you're looking for belonging, even if it's toxic. And once you're locked in, and a lot of times it's not even the drugs that keep you coming back; it's the people, places, and things. Mm-hmm. It's the noun syndrome. And so, listening to those people's story, I lost my wife, or I just never could make something of myself, or I was abused, or my kids, I lost my kids. There was always a tragedy that brought these people to the places that they were. And so I was fascinated by that, and all of that hurt, all of that sorrow, all of that pain, and in the midst of it, we're sitting there breaking bread with drugs. just trying to be there for one another,
Yeah.
even though we didn't really know each other. And so I said in that prayer that one day, it's like, Lord, look, this is not where I want to be, but I know that this is where I am, and I'm not going to give it up anytime soon, or at least that I'm aware of. But I know I love you, and I know I want to be loved by you, and I know I want more for my life. And I said, look, I'm going to be the best crackhead. I'm going to be the best at this until the time is up. I was like, so Lord, if you could just walk with me, keep me safe, and be with me, and Lord, help me to be a blessing to somebody. I may not be able to be a pastor or a minister or, but I know I can help push somebody's car off the road if it's broken down. I know I can walk a blind man across the street. I mean, I know I can help somebody take the trash to the curb. I know that I can do these things. So allow me to be a blessing to somebody and bless anybody who blesses me. And that was my philosophy out there. And the Lord,
It's a beautiful prayer.
Yeah, and the Lord really looked out for me. But it was a painful process. A lot of, almost dying. A lot of getting, beaten to within an inch of my life. A lot of running through gunshots, seeing people die. There's a lot of trauma. A lot of abuse, being abused by, really bad people who were selling drugs. I got raped when I was out there, dude. And that's crazy to say as a grown 6'3", freaking at one point 280-pound man, but it's just the facts of life. And so it was messed up. So I'm just grateful to be here. And in all of that pain and tragedy, I was able to really learn some things.
Yeah.
That were knowledge at first, but they've grown into wisdom, I believe. And as long as I keep practicing the correct principles in my life. And I want to be able to take what I've learned through all the chaos, through all the confusion, all the things that I've, self-incurred trauma or the trauma had happened to me that wasn't my fault specifically. I mean, maybe I made the decision to be there, but, I didn't cause this dude to pull a gun on me or whatever,
right.
I want to prevent as many people from being a December as possible.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. To bring them out, and with the knowledge that everybody's in a continuum. So it could be year one for somebody who's, out there struggling with addiction, and they may not get sober for another 10 years. So to me, year one is just as important as 10th year, because I can remember so many times the Lord would send somebody across my path that would say something to me that would impact me greatly in that moment, but didn't sprout, didn't grow into my life until 6 years later. But they were all catalysts in helping me get sober. So I'm not worried. The Bible says there are some who scatter, some who harvest, but it's him that gives the increase, right? It's he's the God that gives the increase. So we just got to be faithful with our seeds, the things that we plant in people's lives, and be mindful of the words that we speak, and let God do what He's good at, and just keep praying for the will of God in people's lives, and even in our own, and the power to carry that out. And you never know. So it could be year 4, and the person's going to get sober 2 years from then. But I'm going to act as if each time, and I'm going to plant those nuggets, and I'm going to give them the tools, and I'm going to speak life, truth to power, not religiosity, but we're going to speak personally. Hey, this is what you're going through. I've been through that. Or, just relating to the individual, and then empowering them with the tools that they can have to utilize at any given point in their walk to recovery, whether it's just from an abusive relationship, a life in prison, or abusive or drug abuse, whether you go to prison or jail or not. Some people are functional addicts and they want to get better. Maybe the successful entrepreneur who's only been about money and all they care about is making that money, and they're really good at it, but they don't know who they are, and they're coming to a point of moral crisis. And I want to be able to step into that person's life and help them, because the seeds of life are for everybody. They're not just for the recovering addict. They're also for the people who think that they've got it together, or for the person who's just recovering from maybe stepping out of some kind of cult, some kind of political organization, because sometimes these things can drive us mad. You get on Facebook, next thing you know, you want to go out and, throw revolution fist in the air. That's the society is designed to do that to people for some reason.
Yeah.
It's called evil.
Yeah.
But people who want to pull away from that and live a life of meaning and purpose, that's my calling. And so I want to give them all the tools, the tips and the tricks, whatever, the life hacks necessary to do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just glad to be here. That's it.
So, I think I know, like, we've spent days on end talking. So I know, like, all the story and all the parts he's left out and all that. We could sit here. This would be a 4-hour podcast. So, and then still not cover everything that we've talked about. But I think the gist of it is that you're just somebody who's been through hell and back, and you want to help other people to avoid the same issues, the same problems. Because it's interesting, what people don't recognize, I think, is that everything is a reaction to the pain and isolation that we feel from early on. But then we end up in these lifestyles where we incur more trauma and more pain. Uh-huh. And so it's like cyclical. So it's like the stuff that sent me down this road actually is in all the pain, because then I incurred a bunch more pain on the journey. Mm-hmm. And we get further and further from the life that God wanted for us to have.
Right.
And I think one of the things beautiful you didn't cover so far today is you went into your last prison stretch, and actually the Lord delivered you 30 days in. And then you spent like 3 more years sober, in your right mind, in prison, sort of like honing the person that you came out of that prison stretch becoming.
Yeah, well, I think if I had it to do all over again, I'd ask the Lord to deliver me from the emotional trauma. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, Lord, let me work on the drugs, but deliver me from this emotional trauma, deliver me from all of these things so I don't have to work through all of that. Because getting off the drugs is the easy part.
Yeah.
It's dealing with all of the crap that's been unchecked in your life. That is the most difficult part, and that's what keeps people coming back to the same old destructive behaviors. It's the false beliefs that we've adopted throughout our lives about things like, such as if you don't get it here, you're going to be hard pressed to find it anywhere. False belief,
right?
Like if there's all of these things that we've come to know that they just need to be wrecked. Mm-hmm. It's Jesus coming into the temple and turning the tables over. There's so many things you can extract from that story. It's not just the money changers. It's the false belief systems that we've adopted in our lives about life and ourself. And one of the biggest things that is really difficult for any person who's getting sober, we never grew up. So we're still children and grown bodies.
Yeah.
And we just want mommy and daddy. We want that love. And we don't know how to grow up. We don't, we see it on TV, but it's TV. It's not real. Or you see people have it together and you're like, man, I wish I could. But, they always just get up there and tell you, one day I was praying and all of a sudden God, and bam, here I am. There's no story. It's like, what the crap, dude? Lord, please help me. So we get this false idea of how recovery works. Some it's overnight. Some it's a long period of extended time.
Yeah.
And for those who, let me just say this, for those who are seeking the shortcut, trying to play the scratch off and win the lottery as far as like getting sober really fast or getting your life together really fast, it's those who go through the process of working on their emotions that gain the deep wisdoms and insights that help other people get on the road to recovery. So I'd much rather go through the process of pain and difficulty of my own inappropriate behavior, my own mess-ups and setbacks, than ever to just be delivered like that.
Yeah.
So God knew what I needed to do. What I needed, I should say. Let's get rid of the drugs and let's let them work through this. And what a process it's been. It's been ugly. It's been up and down and all around, and it's just been uncomfortable. But as you get older, it does get better. And the more you surrender, the faster your process is. The more you surrender to the reality that this is going to take some time, that you didn't get here overnight.
Yep.
The more you surrender to the reality of, I'd love to just jump up there and go preach across America or get up there and, be the most famous podcaster or get up there. But you got to put the work in. And a lot of that work is soul work. And so if people can get a realistic expectation of what to expect, hey, this is what's going to happen, all the way down from the physiological responses to the biological reality of things, what's going on with me, why all of a sudden am I addicted to porn? I was delivered from drugs. Why all of a sudden am I, a sex addict? And, I was explaining those things, breaking them down, giving people the tools and information necessary for them to fight a good fight. It's easy. It's difficult to fight an enemy when you don't know his position, but if you can break down the strategy of the enemy, and you can break down the knowledge of where the enemy is, you can best navigate and survive it, and sometimes thrive on top of it most of the time. And so I that's what I think that I don't think that's what I believe that the Sober Truth Project is.
Yep.
And I'm excited, and I don't get passionate about very many things. I've been passionate about a lot of dumb things. Like crack.
He mentioned the crack earlier.
Crack.
I'm going to be the best crackhead in the world.
I literally made that commitment. That was my first career. Like I think people go through career changes every 10 years or something like that. I'm like, all right, well, crack was my first. What's my second? Confusion. I was like, oh, I want to do this. No, I want to do this. Oh, I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to be an evangelist. I'm going to be, Jesus, Lord. I look back on a lot of that stuff like line dancing and Billy Ray Cyrus and Achy Breaky Heart. And so it's, man, helping people understand, like I said, giving them the truth about their situation, the diagnosis, and then giving them the prognosis. Like, here's how we're going to get it better. Here's how it's going to take, and this is what to expect most likely. And here's the arcs. Here's the crescendos of some things, and then here's the crash.
Yeah.
And just walking them through and teaching them how to rewire their brain. And it's going to take some time, and it's not going to be easy. But, man, it's so worth the effort. And a lot of people think to themselves as failures because they never started out to start a business or started out to to be some famous influencer, which seems like everybody wants to be these days, or this or that. I want to be known. I want to be famous, or whatever. Or I want to just survive. Whatever it boils down to. And we look at terms of like, you got to fail forward in order to succeed, That's on personal stuff too. That's not just starting businesses. That's not just, becoming successful as a podcaster. It's character development.
Yeah.
And sometimes we go this way and we're like, and then we find out that that's not truly who we are. So we got to start all over again. But the old adage is true for all of it. You keep failing at something, you're finally going to succeed at another. And so, that's where I'm at.
I'm going to challenge everybody's subconscious bias right now, because I imagine you don't think you have bias, but let me just put it this way. My guess is if, you don't know who Brian is, you're probably still listening at this point and you're probably thinking, oh, that's really great. George has another, drug addict, guy to work alongside him. It's nice. We didn't even get into his business successes. So he's not like, he just told you the rough story, but the subconscious bias of the human mind is to lump you in that category of, oh, that's great. Those two ex-drug addicts got some microphones and a video camera. Oh, yeah, they can put some stuff out into the world. And believe me, people think that way. And before I let people know I was in recovery years ago when I got into ministry, and I would have churches ask me to preach. But when they found out I was actually in recovery, then it became, well, you could come and talk to the small group. I'm the same person that you thought I was. But now that you know that I come from this background, you automatically lump me into this other category. So let me just say this. You may think Brian's in that category. He has his own successful business. He's worked with famous people all over the world and helped them build their personas. He's highly skilled. Trust me, he's got the credentials to back up the things he wants to talk about, not just the lifestyle behind it.
You know, and I've messed up a lot along the way. So, you know, I've had fallen outs with people. So it's not perfect on this side, but the goal is striving to be better each day, learning the process of learning from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And really setting it and not avoiding the trauma or the pain of rejection, you know, and understanding that process and how it can really lead to a fulfilling life when you're able to actually say, you know what, this is who I am, and I'm not going to compromise it for anybody. I'm not going to be loud and obnoxious with it, but I'm going to walk a straight line when it comes to who I am. I saw this on this story on TikTok or something the other day. It was about the differences between buffalo or bison and cows when a storm comes. Buffalo or bison, I think they're, I don't know if they're just one and the same or whatever. So, but the whole point is there's a difference between these two animal groups. And the cows, both of them have the ability to sense the storm several hours before the storm comes, but the reaction to it is different. The cows, when the storm comes, they start running or they start heading in the opposite direction. They keep going, and trying to get away from the storm. But ultimately they get overwhelmed by the storm, but they keep running from the storm. So it's crazy. So they end up staying in the storm.
Yeah.
The bison, on the other hand, run towards the storm and get through the storm as fast as possible. So they run towards it, and they keep running through it as the storm passes over them, and then they're out of it. Whereas the cows, on the other hand, they get stuck in the storm and they stay there, and they get traumatized even more. And a lot of us in life, we do the same thing. We run from the scary stuff. We run from the trauma. We run from the confrontations. Or the hurt and the pain, and we want to retreat, but all we're doing is running in the storm and running in the same direction with it.
So it prolongs it.
It creates the compound effect, and it just pulls us down, 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 down. When we're like, you know what? You know, like the dude on Jamie Kennedy, I am the white Kong. You know, he's on, Malibu's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
We need to Malibu's Most Wanted the storms in our life, you know, because it will be painful, it will hurt, but the more we embrace the struggle, the more we encounter the pain of it, the more we accept what's going on in our lives, the quicker we can heal and build from that point. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah,
what a great, you know,
it's beautiful. I didn't get it. I didn't make that up. So like somebody else did get the credit for it, but I thought it was fascinating.
Well, I mean, the bison made it up. But something, right?
You see here. Let's watch these two groups of animals. You know, I see all kinds of interesting stuff on the internet.
Some of it's real.
On the web, you know, on the Google.
On the Google.
On the Google, on the Facebook. That's what they used to call it. But, you know, you see all of these crazy stories. Regardless if it's real or not, great analogy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love it. I can say this: the thousands of people I've worked with over the year in addiction, those that they tend to make matters worse by running from confrontations, because you're always going to have confrontations with people, and so the more you can become adept at dealing with things head on, the better your life is going to be.
You know, there's a lot of great wisdom in the 12 steps. So I'm not anti-AA. I know you're not either. So 12 steps. But there's so much great wisdom. You can learn a lot from a knucklehead, and Bill W. was just another knucklehead out there like us.
Yep.
And so much great wisdom learned in foolery and buffoonery. Literally, some of the greatest nuggets come from some of the biggest idiots, and they had to learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
And so I'm one of those guys. But you know, first thing, and I got segued on earlier talking about something else. We have to learn to take ourselves serious. We don't even know what that is. What is that? I mean, super serious? We had to go back to even re-educate ourselves about some of the words that we've even learned and what their implications are for our lives. And taking ourselves serious as a legit person. Love starts with you. You get into to the mirror and love that person regardless of whether you feel it or not. And you start to take yourself serious as an important contributor to this world. And so teaching people, that's the beginning. The first thing I do with somebody is we assess where we're at. Like, where have you come from? What have you gone through? I mean, it's the classic, like, so tell me a little bit about yourself. And where are you trying to go? And a lot of times people don't know. They think they know. But as we unpack a lot of stuff, we find out that they don't even have the presence of self-awareness and self-love and self-compassion. They may have it a little bit. Oh, the shoes and these pants look nice on me. I go to the gym and blah, blah, blah. But they still don't see themselves as a person. They're absorbed into their environment. And so as soon as we can help them identify and have that self-love and self-awareness and set them on the journey to experiencing what that is through, proper belief and structures and thought processes, through meditation, through affirmations, through stretching for the religious folks, for the non-religious folks, yoga, those things, out there that are there. God created this incredible thing called the body, the human body.
Yeah.
How amazing is it? And there's nothing like it. Not at all. You can create AI all day, and I love AI. But it's not human. And so here we are with these amazing bodies. He's saying, just allow me to be the Lord of your life. You do that. But then he also wants you to honor the temple, to master the temple, to take care of the temple. What is that? What does that even mean? So we break down all of that stuff. We walk them through that stuff. And I know that's what we're going to do at the Sober Truth Project.
Yep.
And I know that's what you've been doing already. So we break all of that stuff down, and we teach them how to be the master of their own minds.
Yep.
It's not perfect. It's flawed, and not one size fits all. That's the uniqueness of the journey, and we find out what works for you, and we set you loose.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I think you get a pretty good idea why I want to work with this guy and why he is now the chief operating officer of the Sober Truth Project. And I'm so excited about what the future holds because I think when it's just me, I tend to fall into a lot of the negative consequences of a human being. Like anybody would. You start to believe, I can't do this or I can't do that, or I'm trying to do this. And so you kind of, in a way, you limit yourself, and you need that other person to come along and say, no, this is what we can do. This is the true potential in front of us. Absolutely. And you're my guy for that. So
boom. So here's to the future, Bob. Looking forward to meeting Dr. Amanda Sharp.
Yeah.
And the courageous co-founder.
The courageous co-founder.
Sober Truth Project.
But yeah, man. So we're going to be, over the next few weeks, we're going to be redoing everything from the website to the way we present ourselves to the logos to the logos. No, that's just
the logos.
It's the logos. But we're just going to revamp everything, rethink everything, and I'm excited to be doing it with this guy. So thank you guys for tuning in. You're going to be part of what we're doing in the future.
Let me just say this, because we get so self-absorbed, and this podcast was kind of about my story. I think working with you is going to be exceptional because you've got all of this history, just grinding, doing what it takes, making stuff happen when there's no possibility of it happening. You've built the Timothy Initiative from the ground up. You did and that's just a couple of the organizations. So I'm going to take this opportunity to brag about you. You've established connections, relationships. Everybody in Tampa who works in anything that has to do with any kind of recovery or mental health or wellness knows who you are, and it's all the way up even into Tallahassee. People know who you are, and you've really established yourself. So. I can bring crazy, silly, goofy wisdom, but dude, you bring the heat when it comes to the things that you've done and accomplished. What you've done. When I first went into that men's program over there, Timothy Initiative, I was blown away.
Yeah,
I was like, you're telling me this guy did that? You did, bro. You're just phenomenal at what you do. You ran a construction company, and you're self-taught in that, and. it's just fascinating. So I'm more excited to be working with somebody who actually knows what the they're doing, and versus the guy who's like, yeah, man, here's a good idea, And so, we're going to be coming. I can tell you this: we're going to be coming to high schools. We're going to be going to the middle schools. We're going to be going to the rehabs. Or at least I will. I think he's going to drag me there too. To the courthouses, to the wherever. We're going to be there. Coming soon.
Coming soon, and we're there to help and talk. We're not going back to court.
No prison sentences for this guy. I think I've missed a year in taxes. I'm still worried about that, so I'm gonna be taking care of that this year.
If the government's watching,
I promise, dude, it was a mistake. I just gotten out of prison and I forgot about tax season. I don't think
yeah, man. This is it, man. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
So how about that story, right? Man, I got to tell you, I, as a podcast interview person, never thought I'd be sitting across as someone said some of the things that Brian said in today's episode, right? Probably shocked a few of you, but it's important that you realize that there are people out there that stories are vastly worse than you can imagine. And as we interact with one another, hopefully stories like this give us the ability to have compassion and empathy, where maybe we've prejudged other people and thought we knew what they'd been through, when in reality we have no idea what another person has been through. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. You'll be hearing more from Brian as we go on with the Sober Truth. And you know what? We may say more things that will blow your mind as the time goes on. So thanks everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, please leave some comments below. Let us know what you're thinking, and we will see you, or you'll see us next time. Peace.